Pokémon Center New York was the first Pokémon store that opened in the United States in November 2001, located in Rockefeller Plaza in New York City. It sold exclusive Pokémon merchandise and even gave away special distribution event Pokémon for their Game Boy games you could only get at the store. It was unfortunately a huge failure to Pokémon and Nintendo for several reasons, and the store was shut down abruptly in 2005 after only 3 years in operation. The store was essentially forgotten about, leaving many unanswered questions to those like myself interested in this defunct store. One of the biggest being, what happened to the life-size Pokémon statues and animatronics on display at this store? Welcome to another episode of Lost PokéMedia. I'm Me700, a Pokémon archivist specializing in this defunct Pokémon store and the author of PokémonCenterNewYork.com. Before I start diving into this episode, I will give a forewarning. There is few and far between images of the store and these statues, so I may reuse photos frequently or use very low quality photos because of the early 2000s being still long ways away from accessible high quality photography for the average person. If you've been to New York City, you know that many flagship stores based in the city go above and beyond to give you the most visual and entertaining experience of their brand. Take M&M World, the Lego Store, or, though now closed, Toys R Us Times Square as an example, all of which offered very exaggerated store elements to really enrich the customer of the brand at hand. Toys R Us actually had a fully operational Ferris wheel inside their 4-story store. I don't know what else could possibly scream in her childhood than a Ferris wheel inside a huge toy store. Pokémon Center was no exception. The company that designed the store, the Phillips Group, which specializes in interior architecture, designed and developed the wondrous Pokémon destination. According to design director Alex Zabaro, Pokémon Center is a place with its own character and landscape. When every child and adult walks through the door, they will recognize Pokémon Center as a piece of the Pokémon universe transported into mid-Manhattan. It is the concrete realization of the Pokémon brand. This store was the first Pokémon store in the United States and strived to indeed take you out of reality and into a Pokémon paradise. The 2-floored store offered an interactive giant Pokédex, the gaming distribution machine, trading card events, Pokémon character showings, a pinball machine, a giant Pokeball that opened up and shot laser lights on the hour, and, of course, the chance to see life-size Pokémon. We'll start with the simple stagnant statues. They were mounted on the columns on both the first and second floor. The Pokémon on the first floor included Oddish, Jigglypuff, Cubone, Meryl, Eevee, and Omnanite, with a checkout counter hosting an arched shelf of our starters at the time of Squirtle, Charmander, Bulbasaur, Totodile, Cyndaquil, and Chikorita. The second floor included Squirtle, Phanpy, Blossom, Rattata, Wooper, Paris, and Caterpie, which also hosted a checkout counter with the exact same setup as the first floor. There may have been more Pokémon around. Again, photos are lacking. This is just what we know from the photos we have. The store also featured bigger stagnant Pokémon characters that only made short appearances. First, there was a large Mewtwo statue that appeared in the main display window. This is the only picture found of the statue, and it is unknown how long it was on display here or if it was ever moved to somewhere else in the store. Later, a large Groudon and Kyogre statue made an appearance for the release of Ruby and Sapphire. Moving on, we have the super cool Pokémon Ceiling Mobile featuring Pidgey, Hoppip, Horsey, Kakuna, Quillfish, Magnemite, Zubat, Ladybug, Spinark, and Coughing. This was one of the first things guests saw when entering the store, as it took up a good portion of the first floor. Random side fact, according to former employees, this mobile got damaged a few days before the store's grand opening, which bent the track. The mobile always had a slight squeak while in operation from the incident. Lastly, and the most interesting and mysterious, the Animatronics, located just next to the staircase on the first floor. This is where things get interesting. Animatronics have historically been one of the most loved forms of themed entertainment in the tourism industry. Disney was one of the very first brands to really recognize the value of animatronic characters in the 1960s. Walt Disney used animatronics very commonly in his themed attractions in Disneyland and later Disney World, and were in turn a huge success, and are still heavily used today, even living in a modern world of CGI and projection imagery. So of course, stagnant statues were not enough to enhance the Pokémon experience. Animatronics would just be another highlight of the store. And this article from Nintendo Power that discussed the planning of the Pokémon Center store featured an artist mock-up of what this audio animatronic zone would entail. It would be featured next to the glass walls of the store, which would entice passerbyers to watch the show and enter the store for more Pokémon fun. The final animatronic area included Charizard, Heracross, Scizor, Snubbull, Wobbuffet, and several Digletts, with a few of what appear to be smaller stagnant statues of Pikachu, Larvitar, Togepi, and Vulpix. These Pokemon animatronics are the reason why I consider this a lost media case. There is currently zero known footage of these animatronics in action. According to the archived Pokemon Center website, they advertised these animatronics as guided computer-controlled motion systems to dynamically simulate their actual movements in the games, cartoons, and videos. Which is just a fancy way of saying they move how a Pokemon would move, like animatronics are supposed to do. From what I can see from the few photos of this area, the Digletts seem to move up and down, and Scizor's pinchers did a pinching motion, but other than that, I truly don't see anything else that could have moved. There is no clear photos of the Charizard and Heracross that were closer to the window. I guess this so-called amazing show from the street was not all that interesting, so no one photographed or filmed it. Animatronics are very expensive to design and build, so it's really no surprise to me if they only had very minor movements, if any at all. It's just odd to me how the website and previous ads really promoted this to be some amazing animatronic show, one worth stopping to watch from the street. I attempted to figure out what company may have designed and built these animatronics by contacting the design director of the store, but I did not hear back. What is even more strange is that there's an exterior photo that was taken later during the store's run in 2004. Looking closely at the top floor, you can see these exact same so-called animatronics moved onto the second floor. From what I understand, animatronics are not just something you can up and move, so I'm assuming some of these animatronics were indeed just stagnant statues. The other possibility is that they were not upkept and eventually stopped working altogether, as some sources have suggested. The store abruptly closed in January 2005 and was converted into Nintendo World. The store's design aimed to be more of a sleeker, modern store and did not feature any character statues. Thus, January 2005 was the last time these Pokemon statues saw the light of day and were assumed to be destroyed, as many displays are when stores close. Or so we thought. Back in 2018, I was doing one of my research dives on YouTube, watching older Pokemon promotional events. One of these events was the Journey Across America tour in 2006, which celebrated Pokemon's 10-year anniversary. A big event for this promotion took place in Bryant Park in New York City. I was watching this video and saw how the event had lots of Pokemon merchandise and decor, and even Pokemon outside on display. This Jigglypuff photo came up in the video and I had to do a double take. That Jigglypuff looks very similar to the Pokemon Center Jigglypuff. I pull up a photo from the store, and sure enough, they are identical. That's when I realized this event used the removed statues from the store and had them on display around the park. If you need further confirmation these are the exact same statues, if you take a close look at the Quillfish and Magnemite, you can still see a little dangle sticking from the top where it was hung up on the mobile. This was an amazing discovery, as this event took place over a year after the Pokemon Center closed, which means the statues were not destroyed after all. However, an important thing to note from this is that none of the statues that were supposedly animatronics, like Charizard, Scizor, Diglett, and Heracross, were seen at this event, only the previous stagnant statues. I was absolutely blown away at this discovery, and it truly gave me hope that these statues were indeed kept by Nintendo to use for future Pokemon events like this one. Except, they were never seen at any other event after this. This anniversary party was the last time they were seen. A former employee of the store got in contact with me one afternoon as he had found my history website and thoroughly enjoyed it. This gave me the opportunity to question him on the statues and animatronics. He couldn't quite remember what all of the animatronics did, but he did ask a fellow coworker, which listed them as follows. Charizard moved its neck and jaw, raising its body and extending its wings. Heracross could raise its head, bucking its horn. The Digletts did pop up and down. Wobbuffet wobbled back and forth and raised its arm in the classic pose. Pikachu could bow and had minor ears and nose movement. Togepi would also do a bow. Snubbull opened its jaw. And finally, the Larvitar and Vulpix were stationary. This was fantastic insight, and I was so excited to finally have some answers on what these guys did. He did confirm the animatronics eventually were moved upstairs and were essentially turned into stationary statues to put the very large Kyogre statue in place of them. He also did confirm the smaller stationary statues were salvaged after the store's closing and taken to store at the New York Pokémon corporate office, where they sat until they were used at the Bryant Park event in 2006. He claims the larger animatronic statues were not saved from the store's closing simply because of their large size, which, while isn't a surprise, is really a shame. The New York corporate office did end up closing around 2007, and he was unsure what happened to the remaining statues from that point on. I would make the educated guess that these statues were probably tossed simply because the transport to the Washington State Nintendo office from New York City would probably be pretty costly, and they would not serve much of a further purpose in the future due to the decline of major public Pokémon events. It really is a shame, as I would consider these a major relic of Pokémon history. But who knows, there is a slight chance they still could exist, but collectors shouldn't get their hopes up to actually get their hands on one if they were saved, as Nintendo does not commonly auction off random relics of their past. I would pay big money to own one of these statues, as they are a one-of-a-kind piece of Pokémon history, but as I stated, there's essentially zero chance one will ever sit in mine or anyone else's collection. The only feasible thing that I would like to get out of this case is footage of the animatronics in action, as well as more viable footage of the store altogether. For now, it goes into another chapter of Lost PokéMedia.